keep moving forward.
Okay.
Don't settle. Don't give up. Don't do anything that can't be undone.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep moving forward in a very positive way.
This is a journey.
Let me take you on a journey.
There will still be the journey.
The journey.
New sheriff in town, and his name is
The journey.
Journey.
This thing is bigger than Nino Brown. This is the journey.
The journey.
What is it that moved you?
The journey. The journey. The journey. The journey.
Welcome back to another episode of The Journey. I'm your host, Larry Robinson, and today, once again, we have a Memphis icon that you just gotta hear. Their story, their trials and tribulation, it's all gonna be right here. But before we get to our guest, we have another quote. This quote is from the great reggae artist, Bob Marley. Beginnings are usually scary, endings are usually sad, but it's everything in between that makes it all worth living. So what that means is that the beginning, you got the end, but it's that middle, it's that dash, as they always say, that really where the fun happens. And today we have Mr. Robert Spence, straight out of Chattanooga, pharmacist turned attorney, visionary entrepreneur, has an amazing law practice, Spence Partners, loyal friend, father, husband, the personification of the pivot. Today we have Brother Robert Spence. Hey, Robert. What's up, brother?
What's up?
Oh, man, it's all good. How you doing?
I'm good.
Good. All right, we're going to jump right in. Early years. We know it started in Chattanooga.
Yes,
Tell us a little bit about Chattanooga.
Like most kids growing up in the 60s and 70s.
Okay.
Small house in Chattanooga, 6 kids.
6 kids?
6 kids.
Oh, wow. What number were you?
I'm number 3.
Number 3, okay.
I'm number 3, 6 kids. Grew up in a small 2-bedroom home.
Wait a minute, 6 kids in 2 bedrooms?
6 kids in 2 bedrooms.
Wow. Okay, so how was the sleeping arrangement? Lay that out for us.
For most of my life, I slept with my younger brother.
Okay.
My older brother slept in the top bunk.
Okay.
And on the opposite side of the room, my 3 sisters slept. The 2 younger ones slept together.
Okay.
And the older one had a bed to herself.
Oh,
and
wow.
it was that way until my older brother went off to college.
Okay.
And I got to move up. To the top
Moving
bunk.
on up.
I moved up to the top bunk. So, that's how we lived, and we thought nothing of it. It was family and,
okay.
All the things that we needed were there.
Okay.
And a bunch of space just wasn't anything that was required.
Right. It's really not. Right. So outside of your parents, who had the biggest impact on you, on the young Robert?
That's hard to say. We were a pretty close-knit family.
Okay.
But I had very much extended family.
Okay.
Like my grandparents lived right down the street. Okay. And so I was often down there. Mm-hmm. And so I guess it'd be my grandfather.
Okay, your grandfather?
My grandfather.
What was he like?
He was quite a man. Okay. He was a pastor. Okay. He was a farmer. Oh. He was a painter. Okay. He was just like the personification of the grandfather who can do everything. He could fix anything, grow anything, preached on Sundays. And so very much a man that I looked up to.
Okay. What have you brought from him? What's one of those tangible things that you can say, yep, that's granddad?
I think just my inner strength. Mm-hmm. We had this large extended family, and he was the hub of it.
Okay.
Because he and my grandmother had 6 or 7 children, mm-hmm. their kids. And so we had this huge conglomerate of people, right. And my grandfather was the hub of it. And his strength in keeping all of that together, mm-hmm. and keeping all of us on track, mm-hmm. moving forward, I think was a big influence in my life.
How different are you from the dreams of young Robert?
Oh, immensely.
Really?
Immensely.
What did you dream you would be?
Growing up, I didn't really have many aspirations.
Really?
I really didn't. I wasn't even sure that I wanted to go to college.
Oh, man.
I think I wanted just a simple life.
Okay.
One that provided me with some level of happiness. But I didn't really see myself much out of my neighborhood. Really? I enjoyed my neighborhood. I enjoyed my friends. And growing up, I probably would have told you that I would settle in my neighborhood, marry a neighborhood girl, have some kids, work somewhere in Chattanooga, and I probably would have been fine with it.
So we need to find out when that dream kind of changed and when that vision changed. But when did you know you were going to be okay? When did things kind of start to look around? You started to look around and say, wait a minute, I can do this. This is not going to be as bad. I can do what granddad did. I could do what dad did, so on and so forth.
Probably when I started college.
Okay.
My older brother and sister went off to Morehouse and Spelman, and I'm number 3 in a line of 6. Okay. And I remember like yesterday the discussion with my father and mother. It was during the summer. It was about a month before college started. I was playing for Morehouse. Right. I come home from playing ball. The house is kind of dark, and my parents are sitting in the living room. And in those days, you didn't sit in the living room unless something was up. Right. You didn't sit on the good furniture unless something was up. And so they called me into the living room, and my father told me that they had run the numbers and that they couldn't make the numbers work. That they could not afford to send me to Morehouse. Right. I had scholarships, but not enough. And he said, you got to go to UT Chattanooga. Okay. And they thought I would be heartbroken, but I really wasn't. Oh, okay. I was like, okay. Right. It's not a big deal to me. Right. And a month later, I started UT Chattanooga. Okay. And when I got to college, really it was the very first place where anybody really asked me what I really wanted to do. I remember being in the line. We used to have those long lines. Right. You know about those lines. Right. You're in those lines all day. You finally get to the front of the line, and it's a person there asking you what your major's going to be, and what classes you want to take. Right. And when I got to the front of that line, they asked me, what do you want to do? I had to make a decision. Okay. And what was your answer? I said, I want to major in biology and chemistry. Wow. And from that day forward, I was running. Okay. So that's when the pharmacy started to come online. Okay. What's your why? Why do you get up every day and fight the good fight? I get up every day and fight the good fight because of my family. Okay. It's my role. It's my job. Okay. It's my faith. And so that's what drives me every single day to try to be a role model for my entire family by getting up and, cranking the shaft every single day as hard as I can to the best of my abilities. That's what I ask of my kids every day. And so I think that the best way to show them that it can be done is to be an example. I got you. That drives me every single day. That makes sense. Last question of this segment. Let me see, how can I put this? Every black man kind of has that moment when they realize they are actually black. What was that moment for you like? Hold on for a quick second. Listen, we're gonna be right back on the journey. And Brother Robert Spence is gonna share with us when he found out that he was a brother. So stay right there, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're talking with attorney, former pharmacist, Robert Spence.
Robert, when we left, you were going to share a little bit about when you realized that you was a little darker, that you was a brother.
Well, growing up, in the 60s and 70s, it was hard not to know you were a brother.
Yeah.
But the first time I knew that it mattered was in college.
Okay.
We were in college. I was taking biology.
Okay.
My professor was Dr. Cooper.
Okay.
And so we took one test. I did really well on it. Then we took another test. Mm-hmm. I did really well on it. But he didn't know who the students were yet. And so he was trying to figure out who are these students in my class that are doing well. Mm-hmm. And so he was calling out names, Smith, Jones. Then he said, Spence. And I said, that's me. He said, no. I said, Robert Spence. I said, that's me. And he looked at me, because I was the only black kid in the class.
Oh, wow.
I was the only black kid in the class. He looked at me, then he handed me my paper, but I knew that the reason he looked at me that way and the reason that he was surprised is because he had this African-American student blowing the top out of his class.
Right.
And it shocked him. And from that point forward in college, I knew I was a black student in college.
Right.
Not just a student in college, but a black student in college, and that it mattered.
Okay.
And that it mattered because it mattered to them.
Right. Wow. Well, let's rewind. Let's go back to those two bunk beds.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good time.
So tell us about that childhood arrangement, and what was playing and all those things like. Just give us a story back.
Well, it was tight in there.
Yeah.
In fact, my grandfather would jokingly call it the coop, the chicken coop. I mean, but growing up, normal to us was one dresser drawer with 6 drawers, and each person had their own drawer.
Right.
So everything that you owned was in that one drawer. Wait
a minute. Wait a minute. Chest of drawer, 6 drawers.
6 drawers.
Everything that you owned was in one of those drawers. Each kid had their own drawer.
Each kid had their own drawer, and there was one closet about this wide. And in that closet, you had your pair of good shoes and your Sunday suit.
Your Sunday go to meeting shoes and suit.
That was it.
Wow.
That was it. So I grew up with that one drawer, and I never thought anything of it. I never thought I was missing something. I needed something. It was just as normal as breathing.
Okay. What was a fond memory back then? What's a memory that makes you, to this day, brings a smile to your face?
This is the story that I often tell when we have family get-togethers. Uh-huh. And it's about how for a large number of those years, we never had central air.
Okay.
But we finally got a window unit air conditioning. And, we were all excited about it. But my older sister, who is now a physician, she had allergies. Uh-huh. And the air blowing on her made her stuffy.
Right.
And so my mother, who was her biggest supporter, would turn off the air, make us open the windows. And so we would be back there in this sweltering heat in the summer because my sister Paula would get stuffy. And so I often tell that story, and, the kids now, nieces and nephews, they laugh about it.
Oh, wow.
It's a good memory, it's just a good story.
So your teen years, what do you remember in that 7th, 8th grade, 9th grade time period? What do you remember during that time in your life?
A very, tumultuous time. Okay. I grew up in era busing. And so we were bused out of our community to a majority white school in the suburbs. And if there were 1,200 students in my school, there were probably 100 blacks.
Okay.
So I went from a elementary school that was 100% black.
Right.
to a junior in high school that was 95% white.
Right.
And, there were some struggles in getting to know one another.
Right.
We had a few race riots. But all in all, what I learned was that, there are always some bad apples.
Right.
But that when you meet, children and students at that age, you really learn that we're all really the same.
Right.
With a lot of, commonality. And although the racial tensions made going to junior high and high school somewhat difficult, and also just the disparities in the numbers. But the one thing that it taught me was that people are just people.
Right. Let me ask you this. Growing up during that time, many of your heroes are being assassinated and dying. How did that affect you going to school every day, dealing with the other side of town, so to speak?
Well, it impacted everybody.
Right.
It impacted how we thought about ourselves in the world, our place in it. It thought about, it impacted how we interacted with our friends. It was just a very tumultuous time.
Right.
Obviously, there were millions of African American kids that grew up during that time that each have their own story.
Right.
But I think, as a group, I think all of us were very much impacted by leaders being killed.
Right.
All of the racial tension, issues from busing.
Right.
That impacted all of us.
Right. Chattanooga wasn't known to be the bastion of civility during that time. So how did you deal with that coming up? How did you deal with knowing that, people did view you differently?
I'm not sure that it was that impactful in my life.
Okay.
I had my school life, then I had my neighborhood life.
Right.
And my neighborhood life was always good. It was always safe.
Okay.
I had my family life. That was always good.
Right.
And so, although I had this, these events out there going on in the world that were larger than myself, I had school that didn't quite feel right.
Right.
I managed through the process, but I never ever really got into school, and that's one of the big reasons. But I always had my family life, my neighborhood life.
Right.
And that kept me grounded, and for the most part, it kept me happy.
Cool. When you started to move beyond UTC, there's some point you matriculated to Memphis. What was that? What precipitated you making that move to Memphis?
Well, like I said, I was a biology and chemistry major in college, and throughout college, if you're a biology and chemistry major, you're going to do medicine or dentistry, maybe even pharmacy, but I never felt an affinity for any of them.
Okay.
I just liked the study of science.
Right.
When it came time to, gear up for the MCAT in med school, I said no. When it came time to gear up for the dental entrance examination, I said no.
Okay.
In fact, my plan was to graduate from college and then figure it out.
Okay.
But fortunately for me, a professor of mine stepped in.
Okay.
And he said, Robert, and his name was Dr. Waddell. He said, Robert, you can go to any of these schools, and I know you don't want to, but have you ever thought about potentially going to pharmacy school? I said, well, not really.
Right.
He said, look, I just got a phone call from one of my buddies at UT in Memphis.
Right.
And they're looking for some really good African-American students. And I really want to recommend you. And he said, if I recommend you, will you at least take a visit?
Okay.
And I was more curious about Memphis than I was pharmacy. Because we had a whole contingent of Memphians
Oh, yeah?
that went to UT Chattanooga, and all they ever did was brag on was Memphis.
Right.
Memphis was the Mecca.
Right.
So anyway, I took the trip up. I met with the administration in the pharmacy school. And 2 months later, I started pharmacy school.
All right. You get to Memphis, finish pharmacy school, adult, married, children, all of that. Tell us about that time in your life.
Well, after pharmacy school, even doing pharmacy school, I worked at St. Jude.
Okay.
And working at St. Jude's is one of those experiences that is life-changing.
It is.
Working with the kids with catastrophic illnesses,
Right.
being a part of trying to help them survive,
Right.
very much impactful. And I really love working at St. Jude. But I knew after my first year of pharmacy school that it wasn't for me.
Really?
And after my first year that it
What was
wasn't
that
for
moment? What was the moment?
It was, I'm not sure that it was a moment. It was just after a year of study, I said, I don't think I want to do this all of my life. And I remember traveling home to Chattanooga and meeting with my father. He just happened to be home when I got there because it was an unexpected trip.
Right.
I walk in, he sees me, he said, "What's wrong?" And for the next 3 or 4 hours, we talk.
Okay.
And at the end of that talking, he asked me, "Do you know what you want to do?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, do this for me. Do not drop out of pharmacy school until you figure out what you want to do. Just keep moving forward."
Right.
So I got back in my little raggedy car, drove back to Memphis, finished pharmacy school.
Okay. Let me see which way I want to go with this. So your career. Tell us about your career during that period. You were a pharmacist, but you were wanting to make a change. When did it click? You know what? I want to be an attorney.
My last year of pharmacy school, I decided I wanted to be a lawyer.
Okay.
And I started making preparations and plans to be a lawyer.
Okay.
I took classes.
Why attorney? I mean, what was it? These are worlds away from one another.
And everybody thought I was going to go to medical school.
Right.
My family thought I was going to medical school. But I never had an affinity for being a physician.
Right.
I just couldn't see myself in that role.
Right.
And I just sort of thought about it, and I'm not sure it was an epiphany, but I said, I think I want to be a lawyer, which was something vastly different than I had ever done.
Okay.
You know, I was more of the science guy.
Right. How many people told you were crazy?
Including my family, a lot of them. I mean, the news wasn't well received when I went home.
Okay.
And I told my mom and dad.
Right.
They thought I was going to medical school.
Right.
But I told them that, you know, I thought I should be a lawyer, and I made preparations and did it.
Let's fast forward to today. You are an attorney, family man, like. What's some of your biggest successes at this point?
My biggest success is raising my family.
Okay.
Because when it all is said and done, that's about all you really have.
Right. That's
you got
true.
your faith and your family.
Right.
And everything else is like extra.
Right.
I mean, the career is extra. Things I've done in the practice of law, that's extra. But when I close my eyes at night, the things that concern me and about which I am committed to, it isn't the practice of law. It's making sure that my family is cared for.
Okay.
I mean, that is my number one goal in life, is to make sure that they have what they need in order to have a healthy life. That's number one goal.
Well, you've definitely built a practice that is very admirable and has been very successful. Looking back, any regrets? Anything you'd go back and want to take a mulligan on?
Professionally?
Period.
Well, yeah, sure. Life is full of things that you could have done different.
Right.
My biggest failure in life was I'm a divorced father.
Oh.
And so that's my biggest failure. I got married young. I made many mistakes.
Okay.
None we're going to talk about. I made.
Give us one, man. Give us one.
No,
this is for the kids, Robert. It's for the kids.
The kids, that I made mistakes, and that the failure of that marriage was on me.
Okay.
It was on me, and for the rest of my life, I've tried to live my life in such a way that I made up for that failure.
Okay.
I wanted to be sure that my kids were okay. I wanted to be sure that my ex was okay.
Right.
And so that impacted me in a great number of ways, and most of them positive.
You have older sons.
Yeah.
How did they deal with their dad not being there anymore?
It was tough on them. And I could see it in their eyes and how we talked, how we interacted. And so I did everything in my power to be with them as much as I could. Mm-hmm. And I understood that my presence was needed in order for them to grow up to be healthy young men.
Right.
And so I committed myself to that. And for a decade or so, if I wasn't working, I was with my kids.
I got you.
Looking
back, you could talk, on the other side of the table, it's that kid that was sleeping on the bottom bunk with his little brother.
Yeah.
What would you say to him?
Just keep moving forward.
Okay.
That simple piece of advice that my father gave me that has guided my life from that day until the present is just keep moving forward.
Okay.
Don't settle. Don't give up. Don't do anything that can't be undone. Mm-hmm. Just keep moving forward in a very positive way. And I think for most people, if they follow that mantra, good things will follow.
Okay.
I think too many people, they give up. Mm-hmm. They settle.
Right.
When if you just keep moving forward, 1 foot at a time, 1 day at a time, eventually you get somewhere where you thought you might not end up.
Okay.
And it's generally positive.
Now, when you fall down, how did you get back up?
Well, it's getting up can be hard. Right. Getting up can be embarrassing.
Right.
Getting up can bruise your ego.
Right.
But people learn through their failures.
Right.
And so falling down is part of the learning process. And so I've fallen down many times. I've had many failures, but I've learned that through that catharsis of falling down and getting up is where I learn, where I grow, where I become a better person. If I can understand, why did you fall?
Right.
Why did you fall? What made you fall?
Right. Listen, this is Robert Spence, Attorney Spence, one of the most successful individuals in the Memphis community. And he's telling you that when you fall down, get back up and keep moving forward. This is what the journey's all about every single time we bring one of these icons. So thank you, Robert, for sharing your story with us. And listen, you keep coming back because you're going to get it right here on The Journey. Till the next time, I'm Larry Robinson, thanking Brother Robert Spence for coming in and sharing with us.
Thank you.
The next time on The Journey on the KUDZUKIAN Network. Take care. Thank you to our partner, the Grand Boulé of Sigma Pi Phi Fraternity, Delta Chapter. To hear more incredible stories like this, be sure to download the KUDZUKIAN app from the App Store or Google Play, or check out the Journey Memphis podcast on all your major podcast providers. Also, check us out on the KUDZUKIAN Network.